Howdy, who all my stock market gamblers? Welcome today. I'm Tall Mike. So glad you're here. What do we got going on? Well, we got Thanksgiving week, right? This is Thanksgiving week. Now, Thanksgiving week is typically a very bullish week. Now, we have no trading on Thursday, being Thanksgiving, as short trading on Friday, but the week in general is very bullish. A lot of traders are out of the area. They're not in the market, so we'll have light volume, and you can push the market around in light volume, easier to manipulate. But typically, the trend is upward through Thanksgiving week. Now, if you look at the whole year we've been in, right? Take a look at the chart. I mean, it's moving straight up, straight up, straight up, right? We've had very few pullbacks this year. Mostly we've gone up higher, straight up, straight up, straight up. And the reason for that, of course, is the money printing, right? I mean, we basically printed another $3 or $4 trillion that we didn't have, and that's what's causing the party in the stock market. Now, you give us 3 or 4 trillion, we could have quite the party also, but that has found its way into the stock market and pushing the stock market much higher. Now, the markets have been going up for what? 14, 15 years now. We've been in this bull market, right? We can't have a bear market anymore. Everybody knows the markets only go up until they go down, right? Some people say we have another 5 or 6 years left of this bull market, push us out to 2030. I suppose that's a possibility. I just never seen a 20-year bull market. Well, nobody has, because there's never been one, right? Eventually you get the bear market where the market starts to come down. I worry they're setting Trump up to be the fall guy, right? This will glide up into January. Trump gets inaugurated and the market will come down, and they can blame the Donald for it, right? Or they can blame capitalism for it, right? Oh, that's not to blame either one. It's called 40 years of money printing. That's going to at some point not be effective anymore, and the market will come down. Just my take, but they're doing everything they can to prop the market up, just like the real estate market, which I want to talk a little bit about today. They're doing everything they can to keep that propped up, right? But here's the problem. Here's the problem with the real estate market. You see, real estate has never been slower. Well, you got to go back a quarter of a century, 25 years to find a slower time period. Now, in that 25 years, have we increased the population of the United States? Yes, we have. But yet the number of sales are lower than they were 25 years ago. Very fascinating to me. We've never been this slow, right? Now, granted, the prices are holding pretty strong, right? Pretty strong. But as you get the volume coming down, you will soon get the prices coming down. Volume always leads the price downward, right? Now, there was an article, I think it was on Yahoo Finance or something, came out, and it was basically talking about the difference in cost between renting versus owning a property, right? The similar properties. So you rent a starter home or you buy a starter home. Anyways, typically it's about 14% more expensive to buy, right? 14% more expensive to buy than it is to rent the equivalent home. That's just an average, and that's over time, right? 14%. That would be the long-term mean. Where are we at today? We're at 42%, 42%. Now, at some point, it's going to revert back to the mean. So if normal is 14%, we're at 42%, right? And I'm not saying rent's cheap. It's cheaper than buying, but rent is still expensive. I have a buddy lives in San Francisco, right? He had a roommate, and his roommate moved out. He couldn't afford the place anymore. It was a 2-bedroom apartment. He was paying $4,200 for it, but he had to let that go because he couldn't find another roommate that he wanted to live with, right? So he let that apartment go, and he got a studio, right? So he was splitting $4,200 with his roommate. He was paying $2,100, but then he now has a studio. A studio apartment in San Francisco apparently goes for $2,800. So his rent went up by $700. Now, granted, he doesn't have a roommate anymore, but that's a lot of money. I go, can you afford that? He goes, not really. He just doesn't like living in his car. But it takes about 50% of his take-home pay just to go to the rent. 50% going to the rent. Okay, well, that's interesting, right? San Francisco, obviously a very expensive city, and a lot of cities are cheaper to rent. You're in Nebraska, it's cheaper to rent. You're in Ohio, cheaper to rent, right? There's a lot of states you can rent a lot cheaper than $2,800 for a studio apartment. Okay, but anyway, so rent versus own. Right now, 42%. I believe that is an all-time record. 42% higher to buy than it is to rent. So what's causing this to go up so much? It's not just the mortgages. Mortgages, grand, went from, you people locked in at 2.8%. Now they're about 7%. So you guys never going to move ever again, right? You're stuck. You're stuck. America's stuck. Now, if I was stuck in the first house I bought, I'd be a very unhappy person. But luckily that mortgages didn't spike up like that when I was young. They started up there and then they came down so I could go buy a new house, a bigger, better house, a bigger, better house, a bigger, better house. And I made out each time. Now, when you buy the bigger, better house, you're not making out. You end up paying more as you go from 2.8 to 7%. So you're stuck in the starter home. Okay, that's fine. A lot of people like starter homes. Nothing wrong with that. All right, but why is the cost so high, the cost of home ownership? Well, 7% for mortgages, that's about average, right? But property taxes, right? As prices of values of properties go up, so does your property tax. So everybody's rooting for their home to go up more, and then they get to pay more in property tax. And the city loves you, cities love you. They get to collect all that money, right? Okay, what else has gone up? Insurance. Now, that's if you can get it. Now, in Florida, you can't get it. Some places in California, you can't get insurance anymore, but insurance has doubled and tripled in many areas, right? So that's skyrocketing also. Now, what about homeowners associations? Not every place has a homeowners association, but the ones that do, oh my goodness, they're up 30-40%, right? And that's a big cost added on to the cost of the mortgage. So there's other things to look at besides just the mortgage costs. You got the cost of maintenance. There's a lot of cost in home ownership, which has made it 42% more than renting right now. Now, renting, who pays the taxes? The landlord pays the taxes, pays the maintenance, pays the insurance, pays the association fees. So you just pay your money and then you're out the door. Yeah, it's $2,800 for a studio in San Francisco. Okay, all right. So what we have right now is, like I say, it's the slowest time in over a quarter of a century. Got to go back a quarter century to find a slower time. And I could vouch for this. I'm a real estate broker. There's just not enough transactions for all the real estate brokers in my area. We probably have, I don't know, five or 6,000 agents, and we probably do about 20, 25 deals a month. So, every 10 or 20 years, an agent sells the property. Now, granted, a lot of agents don't last because it's very competitive, very dog eat dog, right? I mean, you eat what you kill. If you don't make a transaction, you don't eat that month. And most people are not making a transaction per month, right? Now, this year, 3 or 4 homes I sold, and I can eat because when I sell a house, it's 50 or 60 grand, right? Okay, so that's a lot of money, right? Okay, so I'm doing just fine, thank you. I'm trying to get retired, but when my phone rings, I hate to pass up 50 grand, because it does take me about 5 to 10 hours to make that $50,000. And so I go ahead and I do it, right? Even though I'm trying to retire. But the thing is, it's slow out there and real estate agents need deals. So if you want to be one of the bag holders, please go out and buy a house to help your local realtor because they're hurting right now. They're hurting. I can tell you that. But okay, here's what's really going on in the housing market. It's frozen, right? It's frozen. You think it's not coming down, but when it's frozen, you really are coming down because if you want to sell, you have to lower your price. That's just the way it works. Now, there's a problem that not many people are talking about. Now, it's called the adjustable rate mortgages. But Mike, that was 2006. Nobody in their right mind gets an adjustable rate mortgage today. Everybody's in a fixed rate mortgage. I'm locked in at 2.8%. I'm locked in. I'm not going anywhere. And that's great. You're locked in. Okay, here's what I'm talking about, though. You're correct. Adjustable rate mortgages are a very small percentage of them right now. But what we've seen happen over the past 3 or 4 years since they started jacking the rate up, right? It was now 2.8. Now it went to 8%. It's around 7% something right now. Okay, so what you saw in that time, people couldn't afford to qualify at the 8% rate. So what were the home builders doing? they were buying the rate back down. They'd buy it down to 5 or 4%, right? But they'd buy it down for just 1 or 2 years. And then it rolls off the 1 or 2 years, it jumps up to 8%. A lot of lenders doing it the same thing, right? You couldn't qualify for the 8%. So they said, hey, we're going to do a 1-year buy down for you. And then it adjusts. You see, the adjustable rate mortgage isn't dead. It just has a different name. It's called a buy down now, right? And they were buying these down. There's millions of these out there, right? And they're starting to adjust. Well, here's the thing. People can't afford the 8% they were paying 4 or 5% for those 2 years that the builder bought it down, and now it jumped up to 8%. And with the cost of everything going up, cost of property tax, cost of insurance, cost of maintenance, cost of your HOAs, all going up, and then you get this adjustment in your mortgage. What's happening? Delinquents are going off the table. They're shooting straight up right now. Look at what's happening to inventory. It's coming on the market, right? It's now 40% higher than it was this time last year, right? 40% more inventory. That's a lot of inventory, right? It's taking longer to sell. The more inventory that comes on when things are locked up, the more days on market you get. Now, here's the thing. Home sellers are starting to become desperate. Let's just call it motivated. We call that motivated seller. When the desperate person calls Tall Mike up, he'd say, hey, you're motivated. You know, you're not desperate, you're motivated. Yeah, they're desperate, right? And when they're desperate, they soon become distressed. Distressed means they're like 3 months behind on their mortgage. They have to do something. They have to get out of the property, and they have to get out at any cost. Now, what you're going to see, you see stair step going up, right? All these years from 2008, we just been going up and up. I guess we bought them in 2012. So we've been going up for 12 straight years, right? Stair step up, stair step up, stair. You're going to see this elevator coming down because it's going to be a race to the bottom, right? Because the motivated seller, and I'm getting the calls, soon becomes a distressed seller, and they don't have any option but to dump the property on the market and take any price they can get, right? And the first guy that makes it out, right? Now, Billy Bob got out up here, but the next guy, he's going to be down here, right? And the next guy's going to be down here, and the next guy's going to be down here. They're kind of circling the drain to the bottom, right? And this is just what's going on. Now, we've lost Florida, right? Florida's in free fall, right? Texas, we've lost Texas, right? Texas is in free fall. Okay, what's the next state we're losing? Right now, I live in it. We're losing California. California's starting to be in free fall. I'm seeing prices coming down, $300,000, $400,000, $500,000. I've seen $1 million price reduction. California is getting ready to go over the edge, right? It's coming down, coming down, coming down. Now, I'll give you a little clue. The direction that Florida goes and the direction that California goes, which are both coming down, right? They lead the country. They lead the country, okay? The country's going to start coming down along with them. A lot of people say, but Mike, not in my area. My area is beautiful. Nobody would ever sell from my area. Nobody ever dies in my area. Nobody ever loses a job. Nobody gets transferred. Nobody gets divorced. It's so beautiful here. Everybody wants to buy. Everybody wants to be my neighbor. I got news for you. It's going to change. It's going to change rapidly. Maybe it changes in the end of this year. We still got a month left. Maybe it's 2025, but it's going to start to be an elevator down. We took the stairs up, elevator down. But Mike, Blackstone's going to come in. They're going to buy all the properties. Properties will never, ever go down. They cannot go down, Tall Mike. They cannot. Look, it's just simple math. Blackstone's not going to buy these when they're free falling, right? Simple math. They're paying higher rates now. Yeah, when the Fed artificially lowered the rates to 0% for 14 years, Blackstone, here, take all this free money, go buy some houses, get 4 or 5% on your money. You keep the profit, right? For Blackstone, that made perfect math. But math isn't there anymore. We're up here at 7%. I'm still saying mortgages go to 10%. They reduce rates, right? They cut them 50 basis points, then 25 basis points. What happened to mortgages? We're up over a percentage point since they reduced 75 basis points. We went up a whole 100 basis points, right? Okay, so the mortgages are starting to go up. I still say 10%, 10%. I think inflation is going to be over 10%. By the way, they measured the real way. I think we're going to hyperinflate. It's going to take a little time. Maybe not, because you see hyperinflation. It hits really fast, right? I mean, you can go little by little by little, and all of a sudden it just takes off. That's what hyperinflation is. And when you get that inflation going, you're going to see mortgage rates well above 10%. What's that going to do to the housing market? I'm telling you, it ain't going to make them go up. But Mike, inflation makes houses go up. No, it doesn't. Houses are a debt asset. Look at when the inflation takes off, the rates, the mortgages are going to skyrocket. Nobody's going to be able to buy your house. They can't afford to buy your house now. That's why we're locked up at the biggest lockup we've had for a quarter of a century. You wait till we get 10% mortgages and this thing, oh my goodness. I keep saying 40%. I might be really conservative. You leave a number in the comment you think we're going to come down when this elevator takes off. If you like this stuff, give me the thumbs up, punch the subscribe button. Get out there, everybody. Have a great day. We'll talk again soon. Bye-bye now.